6. We go back to our hidey hole and food bowl. The bowl has wolfrat drool soaking our food on the bottom, and I dump it out. Wiping down the bowl, it was still gross with a congealed experiment growing already. I will have to give it a rinse later. We weren't really hungry, but since I was pretty depleted and we were on a healing job, I needed rest in order to cast any spells, so we walked to the rat's den with more room, and Yup keeps watch, looking around the den for something more interesting. After getting another nap, and letting Yup get a few hours of meditating rest, we were back out. I couldn't get much of my magical energy back during the walk, and on watch, there isn't much resting. During some rest, we can get a little back, but not as much as a good time's rest in open territory. I often get most of my magical strength back when praying, but we walk most of what is probably the day. Stopping to pray, on the days I save our lives, I have to pray longer. With 2 guards, and better weapons, the rats would have tried to run. At that point, they would have also been a meal, but we live with what we have. We had enough food for another day perhaps, but with our luck, we might need to eat light again. I've tried before to convince Yup that perhaps I should gain some magical strength and he can advocate for another guard, but like those others that live down here, he scoffed each time before. With some more strength, I could cast more and we could get other jobs. There is a possibility in my mind, that he'd go along with me if he knew of my psionics, but it is much more likely that he'd blackmail me. With the different abilities, I can do quite a bit more healing, but it would be more of a strain, and it would help the family get so much more money, which the idea did not thrill me. I could also defend myself well against him, so he could be scared of me, and assassinate me. Or the family might kill me, because I have been hiding it from them. The next day brings us to the Goblin tribe's territory, crawling through small entryways by the Goblin's design. Like most entries, it is harder for me to fit through a few of them, but Yup has no issues. The little critters were all over the area after we push our way through. They crawl over each other like bugs in a hive, even easily gripping the walls to climb, and we see them fall on each other, but most of the time laugh when they do. There were mutations and hunched backs all over. It looks like the tribe has a couple hundred goblins around. This isn't a swarm, but certainly enough to kill the 2 of us if we started something bad. They are courageous in large groups. A goblin's territory is covered in smells, and dirty water. The walls are picked clean, but it was simple to tell that mushrooms and mold grew all over a musty film on the perimeter. The mangy goblin that crawls up to us could be called a sort of herald, but there is no such thing with them. With a gurgle in the back of its throat, it whispers, asking,
"You finally silver boss? He called long ago."
Yup answers,
"Not our problem, he's still alive?"
The goblin nods up and down, showing us that his boss likely still needs some help. He crawls on all fours pointing out traps to avoid, which the both of us obviously saw. It did point out a bushel of some sort of fungus moss that it told us was a trap too. It did a sort of charade showing us a puffing cloud in his own face. In one cave that we walked by, there was either a goblin performing surgery with no medication, or a gross orgy with 3 of them. Neither of us wanted to try to find out. We walk all of the way to a cave dug into the side of the wall. The gurgling goblin quietly calls into the cave. It meekly echoes in.
"Boss, the elf another thing, showed after long times. Want them to see?"
A deeper growl echoes back sounding like an ogre mating call, calling.
"Ack, why they finally come, it be days and days. I demand lower money pay."
Siclar whispers under his breath to the small goblin that announced him, making the goblin flinch. "Other thing? How rude of you, you crawling miserable creature." Calling a little louder into the mouth of the cave. "You heard your weak minion Grax, get out here." A large, bulging, yellow instead of green-colored hand reaches around the wall of a cave, the nail sharp on all of the fingers, other than the index claw. Since I haven't seen this tribe's territory before, usually another handles this small tribe, I wonder why. As the chief walks out from the darker area of the cave, its other hand is wiping off its face, and the index finger of the other is in its nose, digging for green gold. The smell that precedes the fat goblin is of rotted flesh and blood. It was limping, and limping on 1 foot behind it. We can tell it is in some pain. It tries to pull its authority, but means nothing to the 2 of us.
"You come days late, pain bigger. I pay half and you heal me all, hurting lots."
Yup is a little more intimidating comparing the 2 of us, so he steps up.
"That isn't how this works, Goblin. Whether you are chief or not, you owe us silver for healing you, we should charge double for the damage you are in. He is a master priest, and you are lucky to have him helping. Your own people can't do it.
Siclar's eyes lightened up, and as though this was the first compliment from him, which it might have been, he says in a high pitch.
Aw, you called me a master priest? That is so nice.
Yup tries not to look at me, and stares down the mass that is in front of us. The chief's face screws up in anger.
What means double? You mean more? No, me hurting long time, you take many sleep times, me pay less or you go.
Yup answers.
If your own useless shaman could heal you, they would have by now. That isn't our problem, we got the job after someone died. You are lucky we are here at all. Get someone to pay us in full, and you'll get your healing.
The discolored and mutated ogre goblin calls out. The healer and dark elf are surrounded by 5 goblins, and they all snarl at them with all of the muster they can. Yup opens his mouth of sharp teeth, and draws his sickle. The half-staff stayed holstered for now. This wasn't a fight, it was a threatening negotiation.
You wouldn't dare. If we don't come back, my people will come here to find out what happened to us. Your whole tribe will be wiped out in seconds without them giving it a second thought. You wouldn't dare. If we don't come back, my people will come here to find out what happened to us. Your whole tribe will be wiped out in seconds without them giving it a second thought.
The chief smiles and answers.
Your people no care about yous, you die in the dark scary place, we no see you.
Siclar takes up this one. First of all, I still can't believe you called me a master priest. He says loud enough for most to hear, looking over at Yup, then he looks at the chief. You are a bad liar, and our tribe can find out from you very easy if you lie about us. Us being here now has you in trouble. You pay us, and you feel better, it is that easy. The goblin lowers its head.
We have no coins to trade, all gone. We have lumps of metal. You take that?
It depends on the metal, we can take some if it is good, if not, all over. Do your people mine?
Mean elves, fine, you see.
We need to see it, your kind doesn't know good metal if it chews it up, and poops it out.
Show them the special hut.
The chief calls to his guards. We are directed to an inconspicuous small hut and shown some stuff. There are chunks of metal, miscellaneous taken treasures, some of the stuff looks special. Yup looks over at me, and does a short hand gesture. I recognize it as their sign language, but they haven't taught me enough to be easily understood. At first, it looks like he says with his fingers. Me eat, special food, you get, more for me. My screwed up face has him try again, then he gestures. I will do something. And you can eat their food. I still don't get it. Understanding a little more dark elvish than their jibber-jabber hand signals, I tell him in his language. These things are goblins, just ask in dark elvish. If you want to do that sneaky stuff, one of you will have to take the time and show me. He answers back with a little frustration.
You should know it by now, fine. You ritually cast detect magic to see if something here is special. I'll distract them by taking the time it takes for you.
Sitting down to ritually cast, it is a very slow way for clerics to cast certain spells so that it doesn't cost their magic points. He pictures everything in his head, humming each part of the spell. He can cast it quickly, but has little mana right now from healing them, and soon healing the chief, he needs to save it. The goblins look at them suspiciously as he sits there not doing much, and Yup is checking out the options, but lets them do their thing. Yup is separating a few things. He is decent at appraising materials, they have been through this sort of thing before. Some monsters down here don't always have silver, but take from others, or even mine like these hideous things. At least that is something. When the spell is cast, Siclar stands and looks around for magical things. It figures that there isn't much of anything, other than a dagger. It isn't a fancy one, but it is magical. The magic is weak, but we put it in a pile with possible things. In this case, we are giving options to the chief for payment, and there are enough things for our options. 1. A small pile with chunks of unrefined copper with a few chips of silver and the dagger. 2. 50 copper pieces and a small leather set that might fit another elf. 3. 50 copper and small armor pieces that look like parts of a scale mail set. Wouldn't fit a big guy like me, but maybe a younger elf. They take the few piles and go to the chief. After a bit of haggling, they don't seem to realize the worth of the dagger. Eventually the chief is just tired of his pain, and allows them to pick the pile they want, the chunks of ore, which can sell for quite a bit, and the magical dagger. It is worth a little bit more than even the value of the heel, but everyone takes advantage of everyone else down here. A dressed goblin, unlike the rest of them and the chief, walks next to the chief, and tries to convince him of something, but he pushes him away. It stands and walks back over, looking like it knows something more, but is pushed back again. The chief waves us over, and agrees to our option for the healing. A light heal brings the goblin back to a much better shape, and an infection of the wound is removed through another spell, lesser restoration. When his infection goes away, he sits back down on the rock, and waits for another heal. The stress of pain leaves the chief's face. I've seen it many times before. The drug of no longer having pain rack your body, leaving almost instantly due to magic, is a wonderful thing. After all of the casting, my magic is depleted. Neither of us like the smell of the place, but I ask, Grax, I need to rest from the casting, can you let us stay in a nice part of the place? A smile makes its way to his face, the pain gone in his leg and side, the discolored skin gone and whole body pain ending.
Yes. You stay, eat food, drink, feel good. Pick place to stay, anywhere. You too, show them places.
We walk around again with escorts, missing traps in areas, certainly blocking most places to stay, but one near the exit, away from the dank water supplies and rotting food storages. We make our choice. Goblin territory isn't exactly protected, but it is better than out in the Underdark trying to rest on our own with no sleep rotation. We are offered some molded mushrooms and rotted meat, but wave it off. I'm able to get a full time to rest in order to get most of my spell points back. After casting create food and water, and us eating our fill, we get a lot of hungry looks toward the food through no door of the entrance. The food will eventually dissipate, but we can't make a ton more without me casting a bunch. We give the food that is left over, which is quite a bit, to the goblin that was showing us around. There is a pile that we put onto a long rock, a sort of platter or plate. It is taken out, and the noise of fighting was screeching and snarling close by. A couple likely died. The goblin that took the plate out brings it back within minutes, asking for more. I look over at the meager treasure we got, and look over at Yup, asking, "You want to make some friends?" He answers in dark Elvish,
"I don't need goblin friends."
"Come on, what is another day to us? The family won't care if we are out, but heck, we can demand more treasure for a bunch of food paste, and clean water. We can go back with more, and maybe even take a little off the top?" Yup smiles.
"Now you are talking my language, but no training. We can't have you train yourself out of a client. I'd give them a week to mess up any fresh water anyways. Then they'll beg us to come back just for that."
Looking up at the goblin coming back through the entryway asking for more, I tell him, her, it is hard to tell, that I need to rest in order to cast it twice tomorrow. It nods with hope in its eyes.
We protect, you sleep.
With a good time's rest, not sure if it was day or night, a few creepy ones crawling around the hut tell us that the chief wants to talk to us. We walk back to him, and he looks, of course, much better than before. The chief is not thrilled with us, and our price of services.
Others tell me that you give food. I know of spell, you give water also.
Nodding in answer, he continues.
We give copper that we have and you give us food and water out of your magics. All copper that.
No. All of your treasure in there, I saw it, it is not much. He can give you enough food for a day, and clean water that lasts a long time. There is no better way to get clean water. He just needs a big bowl or big dug-in area, and you will have clean water for many days. If not, we can leave.
Guards.
We are surrounded again. Raising my voice. This is not how it works, your people can't cast like me. Give us the treasure and your people will eat and drink for a day. No, and you can try to kill us, and could kill us, but many of you will die trying. Like we said, our people will come looking for us. The chief lowers his head and is unable to resist. Both of us walk over to the treasure room, and use sheets from Salicomb. Wish we could afford bags of holding, could pile it all in, but in this case, we'll just have huge sacks with us. We pile in all of the copper, the scale mail, and leather, barely fit in a couple of bed rolls we use. We walk back up, and ask where they want the water and food. The chief wants it all close to him. Warn him. If you eat too much of the food, your people will kill you. You can maybe eat some, but give your people much more. Don't let them clean in the water, just let them drink it slow. There will be a lot, protect it. The chief nods in understanding. The spell is amazing, and creates up to 30 gallons of water, and 45 pounds of food. The food is enough to feed 15 humanoids eating well, but these skin and bone goblins will nearly kill each other trying to get a small portion of the filling food paste. The chief grabs a handful, but it is enough to feed all of them. Being guarded and given sparingly, 2 castings of the spell filled up a huge bowl. They had dug into rock, of water as well. It is protected by some guards and spooned out for many of the goblins with their mouths, ironically watering, for a taste of fresh water, the smell of the stagnant water still in the air from their usual water sources nearby. With a smile, I look over at Yup. We did our good deed for the week, aren't we special? The chief calls out as we are walking almost out of earshot.
You come back and do this more.
On the way out, we are followed by a dozen goblins who offer to carry our bags, and don't look back. On our way out, we are stopped by 5 goblins trying to stop us and their friends from leaving. One says,
"We find the hard clothes you take, give back or we kill."
They were frail goblins trying to stand up for themselves. I kill one with the new pick we found after dropping our huge bags in the first few seconds. Yup kills one with his sickle before any more react, and the dozen goblins with us killed their other 3 old friends. If they had any idea what was in store for them in Salicomb if they survive, they would have stayed. The new pick really makes me feel good about what we pulled off. Oh, look. Yup looks over at me. I gained a level from that last goblin, how fun.